Okay, let's take a look at roof system terminology and certifications. This is for our Design 300, and here we go. So, what is a roof system? We're going to look at wood framed roof systems. We've been doing that, residential wood frames. There's a bunch of pieces that all together make a complete roof system. Okay, and we're going to talk about all of those finishes. First, we're going to talk about types of roofs, and this is the roof shape: gable, hip, gambrel, mansard, flat. There's more than that. Some of these are very typical in our area. Then we'll talk about the roof structure, what goes into a roof. There's rafters or trusses. They're a little bit different. They do the same job. Deck, finish, and under finish, we do a lot of asphalt shingle, a little bit of metal, and a fair amount of ceramic clay around here. So that's kind of what we're going to look at. So let's take a look at types of roof. Here you see a gable roof. This is the gable end. It's a flat triangle. And so on a gable roof, usually uh, one half is mirrored over onto the other half. So all the properties of this half are the same as the properties on that half. And these are sloped on the sides, flat on the end. On a hip, they cut this back. On a hip, they cut it back. Okay? And that's called the hip. So if you looked, if you just took a line from here to here, that would be the hip. Okay, no gables, no vertical sides, just four sloped sides. Those are the two most common in our area. You will get some gambrel roofs. Some people call it a barn style, where you have a steep slope, a shallow slope, and the ends are flat, much like the gable. Okay, and a mansard roof does the same thing, but it makes a hip on each end. So the gable, if I added a second slope to it, would be a gambrel. If I had a hip and added a second slope to it, it would be a mansard. And the other one that's fairly common is a flat roof. There's always some pitch to it. You have to have water come off of it somehow. So this shows a very light pitch. It's usually less than 1 inch on every 12 inches. Okay, 1 on 12 pitch. Okay, and so it's almost flat. So those are the types of roofs, and it's good to know they all frame differently and have different types of rafters and things like that. But mostly they're all there either for aesthetics, how they look, energy, or just space. You know, you can't stand up in the attic of a hip, probably not in a gable very much, but you can in a gambrel or a mansard. So let's take a look at the roof structure. Okay, and we're going to talk about rafters. Okay, a truss is a pre-made rafter plus joist combination. Rafters are what give you the slope, and they're the structure. It's what you kind of hold everything up with. And in the middle, there's a ridge board, and that's also held up, and the rafters connect into it. If I push down on the roof, this end pushes straight across and tries to slide a little bit, but it can't because it's nailed in or it has joist hangers. And this end, if I push down, wants to slide outwards. It wants to go outwards. So something has to keep it from going outwards. The joist does that. You nail the rafter to the joist so it can't slide outwards. There are brackets that go from the wall plate to the rafter to keep it from sliding outward. And the joist also helps the walls from going outward. Okay, so there's lots of outward sideways forces from a sloped roof, and those have to be counteracted somehow, and that's what structural engineers calculate to make sure that your roof is going to work. So once you've got your ridge board in place and your rafters, and these rafters repeat into the page every 16 inches, 24 inches, 18 inches, something like that. All depends on the structural engineer. Okay, but there's a few other things. There's something called a purlin. The purlin is a board that sort of keeps these things from wobbling sideways in and out of the page. So it's just something that gets hammered into each rafter, and it keeps the thing steady sideways, front to back. Okay, and then there's battens. Battens run across. Here they are up here. These are battens, and they're showing what they're used for. It's so that you can put your roofing material into something and nail it into place. You can imagine just nailing it into the rafters that are widely spaced might not give enough purchase, and your roof decking, these boards, might try to sag. So the battens are there for you to nail into. And here's all of what they're for. Okay? It also raises you up a little bit so that you can have some airflow. Okay? So there we go with all that. So now there's trusses that are pre-made, and you can see, oh, there's every kind of truss you can think about. But around our area, most are either king post, sometimes queen post, gambrel, and of course, hip. Okay, so those are the most common ones. Okay, and they're pre-made, and people like them because they're prefabricated in a shop. So everything's well controlled. You have all the tools. You can make them, just really precisely, and that means that you know how they're going to work better. And the manufacturer will tell you the loads they've been tested and rated for, so the engineer can rely on the manufacturer, and he knows, the engineer knows, he or she knows that if you order this, what loads they can carry. So finally, there's the roof deck. So what is this again? It's a joist. Okay, this one happens to have a whole bunch of members going this way, kind of odd, but it happens, and there should be some joists going back the other way. Insulation runs in there, rafters run in there, the ridge boards. And once you've got that, the decking goes onto the rafters or the battens, and that's just OSB, oriented strand board or plywood. And then there's some sort of underlayment. Okay, and the underlayment is actually the water resistant part. And yes, the shingles can be water resistant, but they're there for toughness and durability. It's this underlayment, which is like tar paper or plastic or bituminous paint, something like that. And then you lay down some flashing. That's so that when you put your shingles on, they overlap to something that drains off. So wherever there's a joint, there's flashing. Okay, and then there's your finish. That's often shingles or something like that. and then there are usually gutters to take the water away. Not oh, it is shown on here. Ventilation. There's almost always something that has to pop through the roof to get gas from the inside to the outside. And this process here of getting the underlayment down and then putting flashing with the penetration and then getting your finish over it, that has to really be done right or you get problems. Okay, and finally we have some typical roofing finishes. There's metal roofing, which if done right can be very energy efficient. There's corrugated roofing, which usually is very quick and easy to put on, but it has real sound issues and heat issues unless you do it very, very well. But it's very strong because these corrugations give it some strength in bending. Then we have asphalt shingles, super, super common around here. They're fire resistant, they're easy to put on, they last a long time. So they're fairly inexpensive and lightweight compared to clay or cement tiles, and there's all sorts of different shapes of those. Okay, so that's sort of what the structure and the materials are like. Let's talk about certifications. Roofing materials have to meet certain test requirements. They have to be tested. Now we have Underwriters Laboratory and Factory Mutual and some others that do this testing, and they certify a manufacturer of certain types of materials to have a wind resistance, fire resistance, impact resistance. And you can go to this code authorities to find out what all those standards are. There are many other things that go into roof standards. There's life. Is it a 10-year roof, a 20-year roof? And that doesn't tell you how long it's going to last, but they have some standardized testing that says under these conditions it would last 20 years and so on and so forth. Okay, so if you say that I want UL wind resistance of a certain certification, the contractor has to go and get those. So let's see what they are. An Underwriters Laboratory is a group, it's a lab. I've been fortunate enough to go there and have some of the product that I was involved with tested, and I watched it and I saw them doing amazing, cool tests, both in fire resistance and impact resistance, that were really, really cool, really hot. They were lighting things on fire and it was really neato. Okay, so wind resistance is UL 580, and it is so that the deck doesn't uplift when the wind blows over it. Okay, and so you could get a rating of 15, which is the lowest, or a rating of 90, which is the highest. And that's what's called uplift pressure. And you don't have to know much about that, but when wind blows over a roof, there are some equations that tell you that because it's moving faster, it makes a suction. So it actually sucks the roof upwards, and you have to be able to resist that. So a 15 uplift is not very strong, and a 90 uplift is very, very strong. Your structural engineer will give you all that based on the codes for the area where you're building. UL 780 is a fire test for roof coverings. And there's 3 sub-tests: spread of flame, intermittent flame, and burning brand. That's like a tree branch falling on your roof. Okay, so class A is the highest. Okay, and mostly any asphalt shingle will be class A, and most planning authorities in the last, say, 40 to 50 years have required class A. But some places allow class B, and very few allow class C. Okay, so that's fire resistance. And impact resistance. This is showing hail, which has broken some sort of ceramic tile roof. Okay, and so and they get hail impact, and they simulate it using steel spheres launched at different velocities. And somebody has figured out that a steel ball like this going this fast is sort of like hail of a certain size. Okay, coming at a certain angle. Okay, so class 1 withstands impact from small hailstones. And they're saying small hailstones is 1.25 inch diameter. That seems pretty big to me, but that's a small one. Class 2 up to 1.75, and class 3 good up to 2.5 inches. And this is, I think this is got to be larger. I think that was supposed to be 3. That's huge. Now, I'm going to go back and check this because I think that might be either millimeters or centimeters. That would make more sense to me. But this is what came out of Google Bard. So I'll go back and look at those. It looks like there's something kind of up with those. Okay? But you can just know there's class 1, which is the smallest, and class 4, which is the largest. All right, so there we go. That is your terminology for roofing.